Hey everybody, this is Matt Waldman with FootballGuys.com, and this is the second video in an article called Why Even You Should Use Twitter for Fantasy Football. The first video was about creating lists on Twitter so that you can maximize your experience as a fantasy football owner. This video is about taking those lists and putting them on a Twitter platform. Now there are two Twitter platforms that I recommend. One is Hootsuite and the other is TweetDeck. We're going to use TweetDeck today. This is the one that I use exclusively. They both have their merits. I just prefer this one as someone who creates a lot of tweets as well as views a lot of tweets because I like being able to tweet with pictures. I like the layout. It's just more of a preference thing. So when you install TweetDeck, it's going to bring up columns that are default columns here. You can get rid of those, and that's what we're going to do. You can see here, none of these really fit with the list that we created. There are notifications, mentions, followers, activity, and home. And a lot of these, especially activity, this one is not very busy right now, and you've seen some movement. But let me remind you, most of my people I follow are football writers and fantasy football analysts, and it's July at 1:30 in the morning. This is probably one of the deadest times of the year. In September, on a Sunday morning, or on Monday morning, or on Monday night, this is the rate that you're going to see things moving. Like all 5 of these columns moving like this or like that. And it gets overwhelming when you start looking at trying to look at information, and all of this is happening at the same time, and it's moving like a slot machine. You don't really want that. It's going to get crazy for you, and you're not going to want to use Twitter at all. So the first thing that we're going to do is just clean the slate here, because none of this is really useful for us as just a fantasy football owner trying to maximize information on Twitter. So you click on the upper right hand corner, these icons that have these lines with the little circles on them. Click on it, hit remove. Let's just wipe the slate clean. Now it's completely empty, and we can add our own lists. We do that by clicking add column and move down here to list, which is the second one from the bottom on the left, and it gives us these lists. Well, we created some of these in the first video. Breaking news. We want our reports from guys like Lockenfur, Glazer, Schefter, Mortensen, whoever you create here that you trust as newsbreakers, that you're not going to get too much overlap and too crazy information. So I add that here. You're also going to want your go-to fantasy football analysts, those guys that you and women that you really trust. So you add that. Then, say you're an avid IDP player. You're going to add that. And of course you need your Gene Bramwell, Craig Zumsteg, and Stefania Bell. So let's go to our training room and add our training room here. Oh, and let's see. Fantasy football Twitter. It's summertime. A lot of articles are coming out. I want to see what catches my eye. I want to read stuff that maybe I haven't read before. I also want to look for things that I tend to look for this time of year. It's in my grab bag page here, or list here, Fantasy Football Twitter. And DFS. I certainly want to get ready for seeing some of the articles that are coming up on DFS strategy. So I've got myself a nice set of articles, and I'm an avid Dynasty owner, so of course I like Dynasty. So look at that. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different columns here. It looks a little overwhelming, and during the day these are all going to be moving enough that it probably can look a little bit like a slow motion slot machine and get a little crazy. So you don't have to have all this many up. But what you will notice is that the number of people I have on each column is so small that even during the busy times it's not going to move a ton. And I like to have these set up so that the slowest or the most important ones are on my left, and then the ones that I occasionally look at are on my right. So that's how I use Twitter, or use TweetDeck. It's pretty simple. It's a pretty good way of laying things out. If I want to move the columns, say I decide, I'm focused on DFS today. I want to see a little bit more from the writers that I look at here. I can click on this and click on the arrows and move it up a little bit more. And say, IDP, say my drafts aren't, they're a month away. Click those a little bit more. I'm going to start preparing that a couple weeks before I move that over there. So now I'm looking at breaking news, go-to analyst, DFS, my training room, and then my fantasy football Twitter. Say I want to cut this down a little bit more. It's still a little overwhelming to me. Well, all my dynasty leagues have drafted. The waiver wires are closed. No one's trading. It's mid-July or early July. Let me just go ahead and remove that for right now. I can do that. So that's fine. Now I have fewer. Now say, that's enough for me. That's good. This is all I really need. What's great about TweetDeck is that I can respond to people, ask them questions for follow-up if I want it. I can retweet information if I find it interesting and want to start conversation. Maybe add a quote to the tweet. If I want to like it and just show people that I appreciate what they had to say or agree with them, I can hit like. If I want to change them and move them from one list to another, I can do that. If I want to share this tweet in a direct message to one of my buddies and say, see, Jason Lockenfora had this to say, and you're going down this week because this guy's getting hurt, or something of that nature. I can talk a little trash privately, whatever I want to do, link to the tweet. Gives you all that information. Really good stuff, really easy to do. And I think that you'll find this a much more enjoyable experience on Twitter and find it something that's going to be able to help you really master this medium as a fantasy owner in a way that isn't overwhelming. So thanks again, and if you have any questions about using Twitter, you can hit me up on my Twitter account at Matt Waldman. Thanks again.